Thanks for tuning into the podcast, everybody. We got a special broadcast for you today. I'm going to be going over probably 4, maybe 5 different little mini topics for you today. And I'm looking at doing some YouTube videos in the near future, and I'm just kind of playing around with some video here too, and it's not going to be pro yet. Well, not going to be pro probably ever, but just not worried about it being pro, just kind of getting used to the idea of doing some video and just kind of trying it out. So we'll see how it goes. Anyway, the 4 topics that I've got for you today are going back to school in the fall term. And again, it doesn't really matter if you're going back to school in the fall term or you're coming back in the winter term or you're not coming back until September next year. It really doesn't matter. The principles are still the same. And number 2, what have I learned so far from the Guild? So this is kind of like the halfway point for me at the Guild. And we have episodes going all the way till the end of November. And then I'll be taking a month break in December. And probably so will you. So it's intended to be a month-long sabbatical. And it's really going to be a time for me to just kind of refresh and replenish and spend some time with my family. And I know you'll appreciate that as well, and spending time with family, especially around Christmas, because it's such a busy time. And so we're about halfway through. So I'm going to ask myself some questions about what I've learned so far from all the episodes that I've done with the Guild. The third topic is about essential skills, and this applies specifically to trades training. And so there is a list of essential skills that the Red Seal Certification Board has, and you can find those on the Red Seal website at redseal.ca. You can also, in British Columbia, find it at the ita.ca website or ita.bc.ca. Anyway, if you go to Google and just type in Industry Training Authority for BC, you'll find it there. They both have a list of essential skills. And so we have to ask ourselves, of course, the question, what are essential skills? And so essential skills, we'll talk about that a little bit. But that's kind of going to be the highlight of my video stuff that I'll be doing in the near future is taking anywhere from 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes to talk about each essential skill, and then breaking down how you can grow in those essential skills, not only to be better at school, but also to get better at the job site, being an apprentice on the job site. So, and then the last topic we'll be talking about today is the importance of having a good plan and how to make one. So a lot of us plan to do things. A lot of us say we have a plan to do things, but the majority of us don't make plans. And the minority of us who do make plans, the majority of that minority, if you follow me, tend to fall through on those plans. And so it's actually very few people who set out, make a plan, make goals, make measurables in those goals, and then actually achieve their goal. And so I want to share a couple things about how you can start down the road to not only having a good plan and making a good plan, but then executing that plan and making it work for you, and then in the end, see it to fruition. And then maybe if we have time at the end, I'll talk about some best books so far for 2017. Okay. So if you're coming back to school in the fall term, there's a few things that you want to make sure that you're doing. The number one thing that you want to do before you come back is you want to have in place a financial plan. Because most guys and girls, when they come back to school to do their technical training, they forget that it takes a long time for the EI system to kick in. Okay. And so sometimes I've seen in my classes, a student won't get EI until they're in their 6th or 7th week, and we're only at school for 8. And so you are suffering probably by week 2 all the way through to week 6. So you're suffering for a month. And so the bills don't stop coming just because you go to trade school. Your fridge still needs filling. Your stomach still needs to eat. You still like to watch cable TV or pay for internet and stream your stuff and, binge watch on Netflix. You like to do all that stuff. So those bills don't stop coming in. So you need to get prepared for that. And it gets exponentially worse if you have a family. And so, the pressure on your family when you go to trade school, you may or may not know this, but it's huge, especially if your wife or husband is a bit of a worrier. And what I mean by that is they tend to look far into the future and say to themselves things like, I don't know how we're going to pay the rent this month. I don't know how we're going to afford groceries. I don't know how we can even put gas in the tank when you go to trade school. And so a lot of us tend to lean on that little rectangular card in our wallets called Visa, MasterCard, American Express. And we tend to rack that up while we're at school. And then when we're done school, it's not like we have a boatload of cash at the end of school just waiting for us to be used. We have to earn money when we get out of school and then pay stuff back. And that's, it's elementary, I know, but these things are things that we need to think about when we get back to school. So the first thing you need to do is you need to get financially ready. And so how do you do that? You got to identify how much you need. You need to know how much your budget is for each month. You need to, first, I'm assuming that you're going to have a budget, but you need to have a budget for each month. You need to figure out how much it's going to cost you to live. And for some of you that come from out of town, this can be even exponentially harder because now you have to pay for living out allowances and what are you going to eat when you are at school, unless some of you have family in the Lower Mainland and they're just going to let you shack up with them and let you empty their fridge for them, which would be a cool setup, I get. But you still need to get financially ready, because if you're like most people, you may be able to save up a little bit for this blip on the radar called trades training. But then what happens after you get back to work? And so when you get back to work, now you have to work maybe even some overtime shifts, or you have to do some side jobs just to kind of make ends meet while you get caught up. And so this is probably one reason why people don't come back to school very often. And so I see people coming back to my classes where they've been away from school for, 16 months, 18 months, 2 years. I even had one guy stay away from school for 6 years because he just got caught up in work and he didn't want to take the time off because he knew it was going to cost him a boatload of money to come to school. And, he just avoided it for 6 years, and he suffered for it because it's almost like he had to relearn everything over again. So you need to get financially ready. And the second thing that you want to do is you want to set yourself up for success. And so what does that mean? Well, it may mean that you might want to carpool with somebody. And so the first or second day you get to school and you find out, hey, is there somebody in my class that lives near me? And can we carpool? That's going to save you some money on gas. That's going to save you some money on parking. That's going to save you some money on wear and tear of your vehicle. And so that's one thing that you might want to think about when you're setting yourself up for success, is that, can I ride to school with somebody? Another thing you might want to think about is, can I take the bus to school? And I know for a lot of you that you think about, take the bus. Man, dude, I haven't taken the bus since I was in grade 10. Understand it. I get it. But it's a cost savings measure. And so you get a bus pass when you pay for your tuition anyway. So why not use it? But most guys don't in the trades, just because I think they've got too much pride and, they want to show off their big fancy truck when they get to school. Anyway, so you want to set yourself up for success. So that means studying habits, spending habits. Are you going to show up early? You're going to stay late? Are you going to carpool? You're not going to carpool? Are you going to set up a study group? And you're going to be by yourself for the whole time you're here? Those are some things that you want to think about when you get ready to come to school. The last thing is, how are you going to study for exams? And I mention this because I know that there are some people who, quite honestly, you don't even need to come to school, all right? You read the book, you look at the book, and you come to school and you kind of sit there and I've seen you in the back corner. I know you're there. I see you in the back row. Guess what? I know you're there. And so when I'm lecturing, I see you and I say to myself, okay, how can I make this easier for you? And quite honestly, I'm not sure how. But one thing I do know is that most of us, the majority of us, have a hard time with exams. And we have a hard time studying for exams. We may not even know what to study, how to study. Yeah, because invariably I get these questions in the classroom. Dude, is this going to be on the test? Yes. Which part? Everything. Everything? Yeah, everything. Yeah, everything that you got in your book, everything that I've said in class, everything that you've seen on the screen, and probably everything on the internet might be on the test. Really? Yeah, really. And so you kind of have to get yourself set up to study for your exams. Now, guess what? One of the things I'm also going to be doing is I'm going to be putting together a little YouTube video to help you learn how to study. And so it's really straightforward. You don't need to be a rocket scientist. You don't need to be in med school to figure this stuff out. You just need to know how to set yourself up to study properly. And it's not that big of a deal. And in fact, you're probably going to find it easy at first and hard at the end. And what I mean by that is you'll find it easy at first to get set up. You'll find it easy to get into it for the first couple days, maybe even the first week. But that's because you got this thing called motivation going on, and you're really tuned in and jazzed up about it. And then about week 3, week 4, week 5, when Hell Week comes, this whole thing that you've set up tends to get kicked in the shins. And what I mean by that is you decide, oh man, I messed up. Like I forgot to study like 2 or 3 days a row, and I'm behind, and I don't know how I'm going to catch up. So I'm gonna scrap this whole plan that Carson's been talking about, and I'm gonna coast because I coasted in first year and second year and third year, and yeah, my marks went down by 5 and 8 and 10%, no big deal, but I still passed. And there's practicals still in level 4, right? So maybe if I do really good on the practicals, then that will get me through. Well, that may work in levels 1, 2, and 3, but dude, when you get to level 4, you can't rely on that anymore. Okay, you have to understand that the weighting of the practicals gets less as you advance through the levels. So if you're relying on the practicals to get you through the class, okay, that may work. You may squeak by. You may get 70%. You may get 71%. But there's this thing called the IP exam, the Red Seal exam. There's no practical on that exam. It's all multiple choice. It's 4 hours of exam time. And if you haven't trained yourself to get ready for that exam, and you're resting on the fact that, hey, I'm good with my hands, I'm just not really good with the books, then you might be surprised when you get your results back. Surprised in a bad way, not in a good way. So you need to learn how to study for exams. And if you want more help with that, then guess what? I'm going to have a video, maybe 2, to help you figure that kind of stuff out. So that's if you're coming back to school in the fall term or the winter term, and it really doesn't matter to me, you need to keep these 3 things in mind. You need to get financially ready. You need to set yourself up for success. And again, you're going to have to define what success is for you. What does that look like? What does that mean? And so you're going to have to ask yourself a bunch of questions like, does that mean I want to get 90%? Or does that mean I just want to squeak by with 71% and get into that Red Seal exam and then take my chances? That's up to you. So you need to set yourself up for success. The third thing that you want to do is, how do I study for these exams? In multiple choice exams, let me just say this right off the bat, because I kind of get not sick and tired of hearing it, but I hear it so often, I just want to tell everybody to just stop being so silly. Multiple choice exams, even though they are the lowest form of exams that people can actually put together to test your knowledge, they're not always the easiest exams to write, because the question itself may be a paragraph long, and then each one of your options could be 2, 3, 4 sentences long, and there may be only 1, 2, 3, or 4 words that are different between each one of those options. And so you see, it's not just a matter of recognizing the pattern of words, but it's actually being able to recall the knowledge that you've put into your head. And that kind of ties into, how do you study for exams? How do you set yourself up for success? And it also ties into the financial part because, if you're like me and you're thinking about finances, you're not thinking about school. And so taking care of the finances and getting that set aside will help you think about school. So if you're coming back to school, there's 3 things that I want you to think about.